And joining us now to react to this story, we have Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste. Magandang umaga. Thank you for joining us again.
Magandang umaga po.
Okay, I hope you've read this report by the PCIJ on allocables and non-allocables allegedly being the new pork in the budget. What is your reaction to that? Did you also see that upon reviewing the 2026 budget?
Yes, all of us congressmen get a list of projects in our district that are allocable and those in our district which are not allocable. And it's good that people are discussing this now because there should really be reform on the amounts that are being decided per district allocable. Because as you noted in your introduction, it is claimed that only a former undersecretary of the DPWH understands how these amounts were computed, and yet it remains the basis for the amounts in the 2026 budget. But first, I would like to note that it should come as no surprise that the projects in the budget are decided with the input of people in Congress and throughout the legislature, because that's, I think, how things have always been. But at the very least, what we should do is be more transparent on what the projects that each member of Congress or the Senate proposes, so that when the projects end up being substandard, if they do, then the proponent can somehow explain if they had any hand in making it so. So one nice development from all of these recent issues has been that there is a call for increased transparency, and we are not yet doing so. So if we can have all of the projects in the current and even the past budgets proponents be disclosed to the public, then that would go a long way, I think, to making the projects of better quality and have less corruption.
Okay, so you confirm the titles allocable and non-allocable.
Yes, I could actually show that as a district representative, the DPWH gives me a list of projects in my budget, and the district projects are either tagged as allocable and non-allocable. And if they are allocable, then I, as the district representative, can errata or amend them.
Ah, okay. And you're given a list, a menu of projects that you want to insert or you want to amend. Tama ba?
Yes, the regional budget proposal, if I'm not mistaken, that's the DPWH's term, can be many times more than the available budget for my district. And in that larger menu, the DPWH can select what project come into the budget, and the district representative can swap out the projects that they would want in the budget instead. So in effect, the district representative can decide how to use the respective allocable budget. But the term non-allocable doesn't mean that the outside allocable projects are not pork barrel either. In fact, I think the article would also show that they are even more rife in some cases with corruption, because that's where the parking by, for example, contractors who have reportedly been paying for projects to be included in this non-allocable part of the budget. It's also allocable, just that it's decided not by the district representative, but by someone higher up in the system.
Okay, so how does the DPWH send you the list of allocable and non-allocables?
It is given to every congressman at the publication of the National Expenditure Program.
After the NEP. And then if may papalitan kayo doon, does the DPWH contest those changes at least, or debate with the congressman, or kayo ang masusunod? You have the last say?
Yes, the congressman has the say on at least the allocable in his district. And if I can explain the theory why the allocable and non-allocable was created in 2022 for the 2023 budget, it was because with the increase in the DPWH budget, the non-allocable actually exceeded already in amount the allocable budget. There's 401 billion pesos of allocable, and everything in excess of that is basically non-allocable, which in the 2023 budget was maybe 500, And in the 24 and 25 budget, it was around 600 billion pesos.
Wow.
In the 26 budget, it's around only 95, close to 100 billion pesos. But that, because of the large amount of budget that is not allocable to the district representative, the district representative is basically expected to say, okay, you can only touch or make pakialam the allocable projects in your district, but it's actually more of a way to ensure that the district representative knows he cannot touch the projects that are in his district but proposed or inserted by someone else.
And moving on to your district over in Batangas, has this been abused? Was this uncovered because of the past administration? Kasi you sounded the alarm also on Edwin Guardiola, who was selling, allegedly selling projects to contractors. So, in your district, has that been abused?
Yes, I found there were over 22 billion pesos of non-allocable projects that were in a list in the office of former Undersecretary Cabral as of August 2024. That ended up being awarded to companies linked to Congressman Garjola in 2025. And in my district, there is, I think, 794 million pesos of non-allocable Garjola-linked projects in 2025. These are not projects that were proposed by the district representative. They appeared in the district because of the supposed insertions by Congressman Garjola.
Okay, and what projects are usually under the non-allocable?
Well, these are 6 road projects that were inserted, and they, I guess, are also a sign that it's not just flood control that's the issue. I think there's also flood control projects that are needed in the country. It's the way that the budget is being written that is the issue.
Okay,
and
but
the fact that, bid rigging remains widespread. So if you can have more transparency on what the project proponents are, then hopefully you can also have more scrutiny on if the contractor that ends up doing the project is somehow linked to the project proponent.
Wait, but the non-allocable budget, this is reserved for national highways, hindi ba? Because it's outside the jurisdiction of the local government.
Many of the flood control projects for the 2026 budget were in the non-allocable, but of course, as you know, they were scrapped in the resubmission of the NEP. But there's all kinds of projects that are in the non-allocable. I mean, in my district in 2026, we even have renovations of the DPWH office as one of the non-allocable projects. So they come in all kinds, and some are legitimate, but others are not.
Okay, so si Congressman Guardiola, if he does sell the non-allocable projects, allegedly, kanino niya nilalako ito? Sa contractors lang? Is this also being sold to project proponents?
So it happens in the 2025 budget that the non-allocable projects that he ended up being proposed into the budget were implemented by companies linked to him. So I'm not sure if you can say that he sold those projects. Other projects that he inserts allegedly into the budget may have been sold to proponents, but the ones that we have identified are the ones that are being implemented by companies linked to him. Okay. But rather than the seller of that budget would not have been Congressman Garjola because he was the end consumer of it. The seller of the budget is whoever wrote the DPWH budget. And that's why I think the focus in the ICI and other investigations on ghost projects, which account for only 1% of the DPWH budget, is only the tip of the iceberg because there is a far larger amount at stake. Allegedly, almost 100% of bids are rigged. And together with that, then, is the issues on the writing of the budget.
So the 2026 budget is still, it still has room for a lot of corruption and pork to happen.
Yes. For the media that are watching this interview, it would be good to ask the DPWH why they are not releasing a list of the non-allocable projects in the 2026 NEP because the DPWH is now saying we don't know what that is. That was the previous leadership, but the new NEP still has almost 100 billion of non-allocable projects. You can say that because every congressman is given that list, but it's just not consolidated on a nationwide basis. If we can then filter out what are the non-allocable projects nationwide, we can see what are all of these specially inserted projects that are not coming from congressmen in the budget, and many of them may be valid, but there are some that from a review of the budget you can see are highly concentrated in certain regions, and where there is a high concentration of projects allegedly being parked in certain regions, those are also the ones that historically have been most easily sold off to contractors.
So help us understand the findings of this PCIJ report, with the presidential son and House Speaker Martin Romualdez being at the top of that, those who received the most allocables, most amount of allocables. What could this mean? I mean, is it reasonable?
Allocation
or
of the budget is a issue that is separate, I think, from the kickbacks on a project, because you can look at the quality of the project to determine whether there was something wrong in the implementation of the project.
So it's not 1:1, in short.
Well, there could arguably be some correlation, because if there's more budget, then there's more potential for corruption. But I don't want to say that just because someone has a big budget, it's necessarily pro-corruption. And by the way, I would like to also clarify that the allocable budget, as I said a while ago, was 401 billion pesos.
Yes.
And in the past 2 years, the non-allocable was around 600 billion pesos. And the biggest total budget actually was in other districts. If I'm not mistaken, if I can actually share this on your show, I have a list of this that I have been wanting to also be allowed to release, showing the top 3 provinces in the country by DPWH budget, and it's different from the top provinces in the country by allocable budget, because there's a lot of other projects that are inserted in Congress, in the Senate, and in the BICAM, as has been much reported. And well, one of them, for example, that has been reported is the huge flood control projects in Oriental Mindoro, where Oriental Mindoro had 30 billion pesos just in 1 year in 2025 in one district. And that's why I'm just setting in context that who gets the biggest allocable budget is different from who gets the biggest total budget, because a lot of big budgets are also inserted after the allocable budgets are set.
Okay. So, nagbabago pa ito pagdating doon sa GAA.
Nadadagdagan pa, because the allocable is the 401 billion that doesn't change in the past 3 years. And then the in excess of the allocable is what changes. Also because, again, the allegation is that's where a lot of the parking is done, where contractors can buy budgets. And that is the allegation. Or how 30 billion pesos ended up in just one district in 2025.
Okay, so what are the top 3 provinces that ended up with the most budget?
So just the example of Oriental Mindoro was, there was maybe, let's say there's 2 billion pesos allocable in that one district, but the GAA ended up being 30 billion pesos. So basically 28 billion pesos was added on top of the allocable.
That's number 1. Parang second po yata ay no? Bulacan? If I get it right.
Actually, that's district in the allocable, but the other top province, incidentally, was Occidental Mindoro. So the Mimaropa districts got a lot of budget in the 2025 GAA, and in previous years, actually, Cordillera districts got big budgets, because instead of flood control, there was then a lot of slope protection or rock netting. And well, now there's no flood control, but there's a lot of roads that have been inserted in other region. It changes every year, really. So it's not really like there's a district where people always park their projects. I guess time that a certain area and type of project is scrutinized, gumagawa ng paraan ang mga nasa sistemang ito na humanap ng iba pang klaseng proyekto na hindi masyadong mainit.
Okay. And who could be part of that proponent list for the non-allocables?
Well,
mean,
one thing that
congressmen?
I
Oo, also?
mentioned last week is that almost everyone in government has the opportunity to submit lists to the DPWH, and therefore, almost every office in government has some type of insertion. And I think it's less a question of who is than who is not.
Ah, okay. So for example, if I am, what do you mean by everyone? As in parang kahit part ako ng ano?
It's
Ng
not just
agency.
congressmen and senators, not
Oo.
even just cabinet secretaries. There are even cabinet undersecretaries that have flood control projects inserted into the budget.
And, really? But, and how could what's the rationale of, for example, if I'm a secretary, what's the rationale of me being a proponent of a flood control project if I have nothing to do with flood control?
You can ask them.
Okay. Okay, so this is the list.
But
Have you seen
if-
this list at least?
Yes. So the reason why I'm saying this is because there's a lot of speculation that this happens, but the proof is that there is a list that I have seen in the office of DPWH former Undersecretary Catalina Cabral that lists every item in the National Expenditure Program and indicates if it's allocable by the district congressman, or if it is outside the allocable, then it actually has proponents behind them. And the proponents are not only congressmen and senators, they are also cabinet secretaries and undersecretaries and others. There are even contractors whose names are in the internal files as proposed projects of the DPWH.
Okay. The PCIJ has said the numbers have not been released to them, the proponent list, but they also mentioned in this report that they reached out to your office for the numbers if you would have. But nakalagay dito, all of them either refused to give out their list or said they would have to double check. Leandro Leviste in particular has been pressuring the DPWH itself to release proponent lists. So what
Yes.
list do you have in your office?
So I have a list of proponents of projects in the NEP that came from the office of former DPWH Undersecretary Catalina Cabral. DPWH is well aware and also has this list, and I am hoping that they will walk the talk on transparency and release the list of proponents that are in the computer in the office of former Undersecretary Catalina Cabral.
So it's with you, the list of proponents for allocable and non-allocables?
Yes, and I've been having private discussions asking that this list be released to the public.
And if they don't, will you release it?
I'd like them to release it first.
But is there a chance that you might release it?
Anything is possible.
Okay. Maraming salamat for that. Again, just to wrap things up, is this the reason why you said no to the 2026 budget? Because maraming nagulat, you were the only majority congressman that said no to this to the general appropriations bill.
I cited two reasons. One is that the prices were then still too high, and I thank the DPWH for decreasing them, but I think they could still be decreased some more. But it's a good start. And second, that the budget allocation seems a bit arbitrary because Calabarzon is 15% of the country's population and GDP, but only 10% of the DPWH budget. And the reason why I'm passionate about this question on the allocation of budgets is particularly because I represent a Calabarzon district. And if we followed an equation or a formula on how much to allocate the budget, it is not only going to make it more equitable for populous regions and districts, but it's also going to end the system of selling budgets in the DPWH.
Okay. So, ihahabol ko lang yung errata, kasi you mentioned it a while ago, that in the 2026 budget, actually, it says here in the PCIJ report that congressmen were given a chance to move or move their budget to have several types of errata para hindi matapyas yung pera because nga the public was looking into this 2026 budget already. So is this true that there's this kind of presentation where you could convert your DPWH budget and siphon it to farm-to-market roads, irrigation projects, classroom facilities, health facilities, housing projects, and airport building and facilities?
Yes, that presentation is true. And after that presentation was circulated in Congress, there have been many then changes into the budget. But basically, the budget did not decrease. It was just moved from flood control to other things also selected by Congress.
But this presentation came from the DPWH?
From Congress.
From Congress. Which office issued this presentation?
It was given to all the members of Congress, so I think it's part of the deliberations by the Committee on Appropriations.
So the public should also look into all of these projects, kung saan napunta yung pera?
Yes, I think that it would be good for the Committee on Appropriations to be transparent on how the decisions on where to allocate the 255 billion of the flood control were made, and they've shown what the output was, and it's good that it's shifted to education, health, and agriculture. But it would be good to show a little bit more on the internal process for how the allocations were decided.
Oh, because that was the president's directive also to shift the budget from flood control to the education sector, right, and to the agriculture sector. But as to the rationale, of course, it has to fit within the goals and the plans of the administration.
Yes.
Right.
And if I can be a little bit more granular, let's say that they shifted a budget to 10 million pesos worth of farm-to-market roads or 20 billion pesos worth of classrooms. They're also going to have to distribute that among 254 congressional districts. And there are certain numbers already being given out. Every congressman gets this much million of farm-to-market roads and this much million of classrooms. It would be good if we be transparent on what those numbers are and how the budget is allocated per district.
Okay, speaking of saan galing ang pera, there were photos over the weekend of you buying 250,000 Noche Buena packs. Did all of that come from your salary? Medyo malaki yun, ha?
So this is the second year that I'm giving out the Noche Buena in my district. This is my personal contribution to give my district mates a Merry Christmas.
So it comes from personal funds, all of it?
Yes.
Baka pwede rin kami dito sa sa Quezon City.
Well,
joke lang.
Some people are saying that we should have less extra, but I note the DTI saying that 500 pesos can buy a Noche Buena pack. Maybe if we lower taxes, then 500 pesos can go a longer way, and that's one thing I'm advocating, so that we don't have to rely on government giving out Noche Buena per family.
So magkano yung Noche Buena pack nasa picture mo?
Mga 500 din.
Saktong 500?
Yes.
Kasama na yung lalagyan?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Siguro kailangan natin malaman yung supplier na yan. But the 250,000 definitely brings the price down, right? Thank you for joining us this morning, and we hope if it isn't the DPWH, your office will release this list, proponent list, for allocables and non-allocables. Thank you for helping us understand that latest PCIJ report. We have Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste.